Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Newcastle drew 1-1 with Aston Villa. A last gasp goal by Jamal Lascelles saved Newcastle from what would have been a devastating defeat. Joined by our chief sports writer Lee Ryder, who of course was up at St James's Park. Lee, just sum up what you saw there tonight.
Well, you look back at the game and you think that Newcastle wasted, the best part of an hour by messing around, playing with a centre forward on the left wing and a winger in the central role. And it didn't work. Simple as that. And Joe Linton had a couple of opportunities which were wasted as well. And then, when Villa scored, you just thought, same old story here. Obviously, Newcastle had hit the bar with Murphy, but that would have been, bad luck over again. But look, they've ended up getting a 94th minute equaliser. It keeps them just above the relegation zone, and it's all eyes on Fulham against Man City tomorrow, and then Southampton Brighton on Sunday.
Yeah, that's the point. It could still turn out to be a very poor weekend for Newcastle if them two sides beat their opposition, like you said, over the next few days. Bruce said Newcastle were marginally better and it would have been cruel not to get anything. Do you agree with that?
In some ways, I think it would have been a kick in the teeth to lose that game and not get a 0-0. But let's be totally honest. As I say, for the first hour, they had an opportunity to really go out and attack, and they made strange decisions in terms of personnel. And obviously, when they switched it around, I think it was about 50-55 minutes. They did start to create a bit more. A bit of composure finally arrived with Murphy cutting inside and hitting the bar. So, yeah, from that point of view, they would have been unfortunate. However, if they had lost it, then they would have only had themselves to blame after setting up so in such an aloof manner,
I think in your match report you describe it as bizarre. And like you say, you asked, or Steve Bruce was asked about that, and he said, he didn't want to change his system because that's what they've been used to. But it does feel like, what's the old saying, putting is it square pegs in round holes?
Yeah, I asked him that question. It was my question actually in the press conference, because I think that was the main talking point of the night, from a tactical point of view. And I think obviously a lot of people wanted an explanation. And yeah, he just said he wanted to stick to the same system that they've been playing in the last 6 or 7 weeks, is how he put it. And yeah, look, it just, for me, it just seems the common sense is to play your players in the best positions. Simple as that. And Dwight Gale is not a left winger. He's someone who has to be in the final third. He's a poacher. Let's get the ball in and around that area. And he's certainly not going to get too many opportunities if he's playing out wide.
A lot of people talking about Joe Linton here in the comments, and you give Mings a really good game. I thought Mings couldn't handle him, but we had another, I'm going to describe it as a West Brom moment, as Joe Linton got into the box, got the better of Mings, and then he squared it. And everyone was thinking, well, you're one-on-one with Martinez. Why haven't you fired a goal there?
Well, I mean, let's be totally honest. He had a long crack at playing as centre forward for Newcastle. Then he decided that the best bet would be to play him in the position where he was in Hoffenheim, out wide. So now he's possibly caught between two minds, and the information he's getting is, to create rather than score. And yeah, but as I said after West Brom, instinctively you've got to hit those across the goalkeeper. Ryan Fraser, it was just deja vu the first half for West Brom, and then the second half another opportunity where he's kind of in a position to shoot and he's scraped it across the face of goal, and it hasn't paid off. To be fair, I think he worked hard. He's strong, as you see. He gave Mings a really good workout, and overall, I think you can't. He's an honest player. You can't knock him for that, but he's just does not come across as a natural goal scorer.
No, not at all. A lot of people talking about the subs. You mentioned Murphy came on, he hit the bar. People are asking why Murphy didn't maybe come on a bit sooner. Why didn't he maybe start? And then people asking as well about Andy Carroll and why is he coming on so late in games?
Yeah, I mean, Murphy, first of all, I thought he had a decent game. Obviously could have scored what would have been the winner. Then, sets up a vital equaliser. And I think if you go back to that Wolves game where he scored an equaliser from a free kick, his contributions this season could end up delivering some valuable points. And, I think he's definitely been a decent player this season for Newcastle. I hope he gets another opportunity. Maybe he will be suited to this system. You just never know. But as for Andy Carroll, again, it's just too late for any player to make a real impact in the game. I suppose he gave Villa, a few things to think about, when the ball was getting sort of thrown in the box. I mean, Dwight Gale was sprinting over to take the throw in, and I'm sure he was aiming for Andy Carroll, but, eventually got cleared and worked back in, and Lascelles scored. So he's probably caused a bit of confusion, but, knowing Andy Carroll, he will want better opportunities, and he'll want to get a few goals because I think he knows now, really, the last 10 games now he's playing for his future, and he needs a couple in the back of the net to even for him to be considered for that extension.
Obviously, it's better to draw the game than it is to lose it, and that goal from Lascelles to some might seem a bit like a winner because, like you say, you don't want to go into Brighton on the back of a defeat. Do you think the fact that Lascelles scores that takes away a decision that the board might have been having to make had Newcastle lost the game?
I don't think they'll be happy with those suggestions tonight. Just because I've kind of got my finger on the pulse with how they're feeling about criticism. But I think had they lost this tonight and then dropped in the bottom three, then they would have had a decision to make. And I would be absolutely amazed if Mike Ashley wasn't ringing the people that he's got around him saying, okay, so what do we do next? We're in the bottom three. We've got 10 games to go. Sheffield United have just got rid of their manager. West Brom got rid of their manager as well. Do we follow them? And, that would have been a perfectly legitimate question for a billionaire owner to ask the people he pays so well to make decisions around him. But the equaliser has possibly changed the context a little bit because, Man City will hopefully beat Fulham, and I can see Southampton getting a sort of derby win against Brighton, and then it just takes it to the next weekend, as we touched on the sort of pre-game show, didn't we? We said that it'll just rumble on for another weekend, and that looks to be where we're heading.
Steve Bruce said after the game, he mentioned the big players are hopefully on the corner returning. He said that should give us something to focus on. Does that worry you slightly? Because, there's still games to play before those players, Almiron, St. Maximin and Wilson, return. And if that's what they're focusing on, and of course we could interpret this many ways, but let's say that's how it is, they're focusing on their return, it's a bit worrying because essentially are they saying, let's just play and get to those three players returning, and then hopefully we'll pick up some results?
Yeah, I think they will. It is worrying, but they'll be looking at now the Brighton game, and trying to at least pick up another point. I mean, they turn into draw specialists now, 3 draws in a row. If they're out the relegation zone by the time they leave Brighton and get on the bus down there, then I'm sure with 9 games left, you're going to see some of them players come back. And if they can get on to 31 points before they come back, before they restart after the international break, then I think it's pretty clear what they've got to do in the last few games. So tricky times ahead, but I think this will give them a bit of belief tonight. The fact that they fought back from what looked to be a very painful defeat.
Final question then. Bruce said that he was convinced they'll be okay, or they've got enough to be okay. But I look at the last 3 games and they haven't looked like winning any of them. Yes, they've drawn them, but they didn't look like beating West Brom. Again, tonight, it didn't look like beating Villa, didn't look like beating Wolves. Where does that confidence come from, do you think? And are you sharing that confidence that they will be okay? Have you seen enough over the last few weeks despite no wins?
For me, I've always thought they were going to just stumble over the line and scrape to safety. Had they lost tonight, then I would probably be revising my opinion, which we are allowed to do that, by the way. You can't change your opinion, but I do think they were. I do think they can. I do think they can stay up. Going into that Brighton game, that is one tricky fixture. It's got an ugly game written all over it, hasn't it? Really, down there, and it was certainly an awful game to watch last year when it ended 0-0. Could happen exactly the same again, but we'll wait and see. I do think they will be safe, but only just. And I think that'll give them a bit of belief tonight, because to be fair, I don't know whether it come across on the TV, but you could hear the players at their final whistle absolutely celebrating that point. Huge psychological lift for them. They did look, heads were down. There was players down on the turf when that Villa goal went in, but they managed to pick themselves up, and fair play to them. They've grabbed a point. They probably should have won, but they need to start winning games. You can't, you may stay up if you pluck a draw here and there, but you need to get a couple of wins on the board, and hopefully they can do it from the last 10 games.
Well, you mentioned there, just finally, you mentioned there that you've got to pick up wins, but someone's mentioned here the last 10 games. You've got a few good teams coming up, and really this was the run where you would have hoped to pick up some wins. I mean, it probably finishes with Brighton, and then you have got the likes of Arsenal and others to come in then that last 10 games. So how are you feeling about that run-in?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is winnable games in there. The ones you would expect them to get something, and I think they will still do that. And I also think there's probably one game on that fixture you look down and they'll get an unexpected result, just with the way this league has gone this season. So I do think they've got enough in them. They've got to get, one or two of these players back. Callum Wilson, was pictured in the stands tonight. He's going to be close after the international break. St. Maximin, is a game changer. And then, you've got Almiron, who's got 3 goals since the turn of the year before getting injured. So, look, they're all fighting to be back. It'll make a massive difference to the team, and hopefully they can get what they need. But, I'm not looking at this season as anything other than a disappointment, because, they were meant to be pushing for the top 10. And we're still looking over our shoulder going into one of the batch of fixtures tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not one I think we'll tell the grandkids about. But Lee, thank you for joining us on Everything is Black and White podcast. You can head over to Chronicle Live to read Lee's match report, player ratings, and all the reaction from tonight's game. To you guys, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it, as always.